All right, now that we've created our OnShape education account, we're going to sign in and create our first project. So what you need to do is click sign in the top right hand corner. Type in the email address which you used to create your account, which should be your school email address, and then type in the password that you would have chosen once you verified your account via email, and then click sign in. When you sign into OnShape, you get a list of all the projects that you've been working on, and in this top bar are the projects that I've worked on most recently. Yours at this point will probably have no projects as you haven't made anything yet. So we're going to start by creating our first project. And the way we do that is to click create in the top left-hand corner and then select document. And OnShape is going to ask us to name our document. Now, our first project is going to be a very basic one. We're just going to draw a very basic house brick. So I'm going to title my project house brick and select OK. So when we create a new project, we open up in something which OnShape calls a part studio, which is the window that you see now. And in that part studio, we've given a whole range of tools that we can use along the top here to create and model three-dimensional parts. We're given a feature tree on the left side, which shows us every step that we've done in creating our part, and later on we can go back and edit them. This is a very useful tool. And we're given a 3D workspace that we're going to work in, that we can manipulate and move around. Now, the first thing you're going to want to do is to go into My Account and then Preferences. Make sure that your length units are set to millimeter, and I usually have it set to 2 decimal places, which is this one, 0.12. Your angle units are degrees, and that the decimal places again is to 2 decimal places, and that our view settings are set to OnShape. Okay, and once you've done that, you can click return to document in the top right corner. All right, so now that we've set up our preferences, we can start to model our first project. And the way we do that is by first selecting a plane that we want to work in. So a plane is basically a 2-dimensional flat surface that we can use to sketch our object on. So in this case, I'm going to start on the top plane. So if I left click on the top plane and then select New Sketch, which is this button in the top left corner, it's going to create a sketch plane for me to draw on. Now at the moment it's hard to draw on this because the sketch plane is, arranged in a way to look realistic, not to be favorable to draw on. So what I need to do is click the N key on the keyboard, and that will normalize the plane and make it a flat surface that's easy for us to draw on. The next thing we're going to do is select one of our sketch tools, which is the rectangle tool up in the top left corner here. So you left click on the rectangle tool, click once on the center dot here, and then drag your rectangle out to whatever size. It doesn't matter what size you drag it out to. At the moment you can see as I change it, the dimensions are changing. But once we click again and set the size of our rectangle, we can modify those anyway. So a standard house brick size is 230 by 110 by 50 millimeters. So what we're going to do, you can see our bottom dimension here is highlighted. If I type 230 and then click enter, it'll change the size of my sketch. And then it highlights the next dimension over here, and I'm going to change that one to 110 and then click enter. All right, and now we've got a 2D rectangle that is appropriately dimensioned. Now you would have seen that I just zoomed in and out. To zoom in and out, you just use the scroll wheel on your mouse. Once you've finished your sketch, you can name it if you like by clicking the pencil and calling it something appropriate. And for a very simple project like this one, it doesn't matter a great deal, but as your projects start to get more and more complex, it is good to be able to name your things so that it's easier to go back and edit them. And then I'm going to click the tick, and you'll see that my house brick sketch appears now in my feature tree, and I've got a two-dimensional rectangle that's been drawn in my workspace. Now, to move around the workspace in 3 dimensions, you use the right click on your mouse and drag it around. And I can see now I can move around and I can see that that's a flat rectangle in a 3-dimensional space. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to take this rectangle and we're going to make it into a 3-dimensional shape. And the way we do that is we use the extrude tool here in the top left corner. So I click the extrude tool. I select the shape that I want to extrude, which in this case is the rectangle we've just drawn. And then I type how far I want to extrude it. So if I click over here, at the moment it's extruding 25 millimeters. I'm going to extrude it 50 millimeters. Again, you can name the feature if you want. So again, I could call it house brick. And then I click the tick to tell it that I'm done. And you can see we've got a 3-dimensional shape. So that's how we create a 3-dimensional shape from a 2-dimensional shape. We first start by sketching a profile or a 2D shape, and then we extrude or push or pull that 2D shape into a 3D shape. Now, most house bricks will have holes in it. They're not usually solid like this. Sometimes they can be, but modern house bricks generally have holes in them. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how we can take material away from a 3D object. So again, we need to start by doing a 2-dimensional sketch, and the way we do that is we select the plane again that we want to draw on. In this case, I'm going to draw on this top surface of my house brick. I'm going to click N for normalize, and then I'm going to select sketch in the top left corner. Now this time, instead of using the rectangle tool, I'm going to use the circle tool. I'm going to click it, and then I'm going to click once and start drawing a circle out into space, like so. Once I've drawn the circle, I can change the diameter of it. So in this case, I'm going to change it to 25 millimeters, and I'm going to click enter on my keyboard. At the moment, you can see the circle is blue and its outline's not black, and this means that the circle isn't correctly defined, and the program doesn't know where this is in space at the moment. So we need to tell it where that circle is in space, and the way we do that is by using the dimension tool. The dimension tool is this tool here. So we click the dimension tool, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to click the center of the circle, and then the origin point, hit the middle, and drag my dimension out to the side. And I'm going to change this to 70 millimeters. Still the circle's blue because it's not perfectly defined, so we need to do the same thing in the other direction. So I'm going to click the center of my circle, and then I'm going to click the origin point, click enter, and I'm going to make that 50 millimeters. All right, now for my house brick, I want to have 4 holes in it. So one here, one over here somewhere, one over here somewhere, and one over here somewhere. And I want to have them evenly spaced. So I could go and draw 3 more circles, and use the dimension tool to locate them. Or there are other tools at the top we can use to make this more efficient. one tool is the mirror tool. So I'm going to show you how to use that now. So to use the mirror tool, we first have to have a line or an axis that we're going to mirror our sketch or our circle across. And we're going to have to draw that in. So we're going to go up to the top left corner and select the line tool. And what I'm going to do, without clicking, I'm going to drag my mouse to this top line and move it along. And you'll see as I get to the center of the line, a little square appears and I get a symbol that shows that that's the center of that line. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to left click and I'm going to draw a line from the top to the bottom of my face, my house brick face, and then I'm going to do the same in the other direction. So if I get my line, go to this side, drag the mouse up until I get the center, and then I'm going to go all the way to the other side. Now you can see if I'm drawing my line, dragging my line perfectly horizontal, it gets a little yellow dotted line appearing in it. As soon as I go off horizontal, it doesn't have that anymore. So what you need to do is make sure you've got that all the way along. Otherwise, when you mirror your circles, they won't be perfectly even. And when I go to the other side, you can see again, I get that little square that tells me I'm joining to the midpoint of that edge. All right, now we're going to use the mirror tool. So in the top, you have the mirror tool here that looks like this. We're going to click that. The first thing it tells us to do is select the mirror line. In this case, I'm going to select the first line that we drew and then select entities to be mirrored. Now I'm just going to select the circle. Then I can press escape and that tells the program that I'm finished mirroring for now. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to select our mirror tool again, and I'm going to select the second line that we drew as our mirror line, and then I'm going to select both of these circles, and you'll see that they've been mirrored across our center axis. Once you're done, you click escape, and that tells the program that you finished mirroring. Now, at the moment, our circles are a little too close to my liking, so I'm going to change that. And because we've used the mirror tool, what we can do is come over to this dimension, this 70mm dimension, double click it, change it to a larger dimension, for example 90, and all of the other holes will change as well. And if, for example, we decided we wanted to change the 50, we could change that to maybe 40 and make it smaller, and again, they'll change. All right, so now I'm happy with that sketch. I'm going to name the sketch brick holes, and I'm going to click the tick to let the program know that I'm finished sketching. Now, what we're going to do is use the extrude tool again, because we're working in 3 dimensions now. And this time, we're going to select remove in our extrude dialog window, and then choose each of the circles that we just drew. Now, to make sure that those holes go all the way through our house brick, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to select up to next in our dialog box, and that will make the holes go all the way through. Okay, so you can see they're going all the way through. I'll name my extrude brick holes so that if I want to edit it later, I know what this extrude was doing. And then I'm going to click the tick. And then we've got a very basic house brick. So now that you know how to create material and remove material, you'll be able to create most very basic objects. The last thing I'm going to show you how to do before we end this lesson is how to add text onto something, and this will be the last little task you have to do before we finish this lesson. Okay, so the last thing we're going to do for our brick is we're going to add some text to the side. And the way that we're going to do that is, again, by selecting the plane that we're going to work on. So remember, you can use the right click on your mouse and drag to move around in 3 dimensions. Select the plane that you want, which is going to be the side of our brick. Press N for normalize, and then select new sketch. Now in the sketch tools, there's a tool which is called text. We're going to select text and then draw a text box on the side of our brick. Keep it smallish in case your text gets exceeds the size of your box. So, and then a text window will pop up, our text dialog box. In the dialog box, you're going to type the text exactly as you want it to be on the brick. So I'm going to have Mr. Serena. You can change fonts or bold if you want to. I'm just going to stick with the standard text and click tick. You can see it's filled up the text box with Mr. Serena. Now, if you want to move that around, you can click the outside box on the text and move it to make it more central. Or you can use the dimension tool by clicking the dimension tool up here, or D on your keyboard, selecting 2 points, and then changing how far you want it to be. So for example, if I wanted it to be exactly 10 millimeters from the top of my brick, I could type in the 10 there. I could even change the height of my text if I wanted to. If I wanted to make it 25 millimeters, I type 25 and it will change to 25. And then if I wanted it to be a certain distance from this edge, I can do the same thing again. You know, make it 30 millimeters, for example. Once you're done with your sketch, click the tick to let the program know you've finished your sketch. And then I'm going to leave it up to you if you want to cut the text in or add the text to your brick. You will select the extrude tool again in the top left. And then if you want to add the material so it comes out of the brick, select add. If you want to remove the material so it goes into the brick, select remove. Choose the sketch. And then here type how far you want it to go into the brick or out of the brick. In this case, I'm going to cut it into the brick. So I'm removing material and I'm going to cut in just 2 millimeters. And then I'll click the tick. And there you have it. Now to show that you've been able to finish this exercise, what I want you to do is on your computer, if you press the Windows key and type in snip, S-N-I-P, there's something called the snipping tool. Select new snipping and then drag your snipping tool over your brick. Take a snip of it and upload it onto Google Classroom beneath this post, just to show that you've been able to finish the task. And that's it for this tutorial.